Hi up everybody. Right, back in the bait shed. Basically, thought I'd just do a couple of little bits. So we did the other day, we did something about prep, me getting myself ready for first Canal match of the year on Loughborough Canal this coming Sunday, so tomorrow. Just thought I'd just spend a couple of minutes just showing you basically some of the prep I do. Not so much on the tackle side of things, but it's just more bait prep. Just getting ready for tomorrow, just cutting some of the stuff out for tomorrow, so I haven't got things to do in the morning. If you do it certainly with making up my punch crumb, I just prefer to do that the day before, no matter what. It just gives it more chance to take in as much water as possible. So I'll make it up. It just gives me that bit more time to sieve it through, get it prepped and get it to how I like it. I feel sometimes, yeah, we've got loads of time on the bank, but I prefer not to do it on the bank. All I want to do in the morning is set my stall out, and then I'll check my crumb and everything. Yes, it will need a little bit of water running through it, but it'll be just seconds or minutes really of a bit of prep. Ground bait again, obviously like I spoke to on the last ground bait's going to be more smell. I will make it up, make it up at home. It's winter, don't need an active mix. I'll make it up so it's just about right. Then I can adjust it then in the morning on the bank. If I feel like I want to make it sloppy, I can add extra water to it. But it will have dried out overnight anyway, and it's got a chance to take all that water in, and it's just again easier. I find it easier to make an adjustment when it's 90% there. I could add some torque to it if I wanted to knock it back in the morning, but effectively I'm going to make a choice of what ground bait I'm going to use, and then I can just adjust it to the conditions in the morning. Don't think we're really going to be using ground bait anyway as such, but gotta say it depends on the peg really. Field weigh in, it's going to be 0 to 3 degrees. 0 probably in the morning, then the highest temperature throughout the day is going to be 3 degrees, so it's going to be cold. So we'll be keeping stuff to a minimum, but like I said, we're going to need that bit of smell. Yes, I know the canal's coloured, but if there is fish in the vicinity, they're going to be, like I say, they've got to feed. They're going to be hunting around, not so much visually but more scent wise, and then the visual thing, it'd be like them going around in driving around in fog. Everything's last minute, so if there's something going through the water, it kind of catches their eye. They're inquisitive things anyway, so they're gonna, if they see something, they're gonna go for it and look at it and see what it is. That's the idea anyway. Well, that's my idea on it all. So no further ado, give us a minute, I'll be back. Let's have a quick look at putting a few little bits and bobs together. Might give you a few hints and tips and some ideas. You can fire some back to me. So see you in a moment. So first things first, grab some of this from the shop. So that's our spiced crumb. One of the lads has asked me to take him some of that tomorrow, so our spiced canal crumb. So I'm going to knock that up first. It's going to be a little bit difficult. I'll try and show you the best I possibly can of how I do it. Right, so the bag I had the other day, wants me to open the bag with, and just tear it open. There we go. Right, so I will always measure my mixers out. I think it's quite important really. It stops you from probably overdoing it, but it also gauges for next time. Right, so that's obviously a pint tub. So I'll put a pint. Now you're probably going to think this is way too much really for what I'm going to need. So there's a pint there. Smallish bucket, chuck that in the bottom. Yeah. Oh, I love the smell of it. It just smells amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I'm going to do, for a good measure, a quarter. The reason being is, chuck that in. So basically, there's a pint and a quarter of our spiced canal crumb in there. Okay. Reason being is I'm going to wet this up and then leave it to stand for a minute or two, well probably a bit longer than a minute or two, and then I'm going to put it through a sieve and take all the lumps out. You're going to get lumps no matter what happens. This is a bit why I was saying I like to do the prep at home, because I can take my time over it. I'll probably lose that quarter, I'm still going to end up with a pint. Right, so I'm going to add a bit of water. Just a bit of water, just so it's just, hopefully you can see this. This is one thing I find on some of the fishing videos, they look in a bucket but don't look in a bucket, if that makes sense. So let's just work a little bit of water into it. So you see that's starting to take a bit of water now, yeah? So it's already binding together a little bit. Now it is, like I say, look, it's already binding a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I don't want to be tipping any more water in it. I'm going to use a wet hand. It's a wet hand, just flicks them in, probably 2. And I can keep working it. It's so important, really important, not to overdo it, not to overwet it. It's still binding up. I think one more wet hand through, and then put it on one side. One more wet hand. This is just the start of it. This is just prepping it, just to get that initial bit of water in. So it's already sticking to my hands, but not too bad. The way we've done our punch crumb is it does. You can knock it up a bit quicker than this, but to be fair, take a bit of time. Right, so that's actually starting to take quite a bit of the water in. Okay. So I'm going to put that on one side for a minute. Knock that off my hands. Right, I'm just going to put that on one side. Give that probably 3 or 4 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. So we'll have a look at some other stuff while that just stands. I haven't got the usual, here's one I did earlier. No, we're doing this proper. Okay, so we'll just leave that to one side, let that draw in as much as water as it can, knowing full well we've got to put some more water in. Right, so back in a second, we'll have a look at something still there. Been and made a cup of tea. I could do it, well, I've had enough tea to sink a battleship today. Right, so there's some other bits, while that's still standing, right, so other bits taken tomorrow. I've done these at the shop. Some dead reds and some dead fluoro pinkies. I've just chucked them in together. I'm only really going to be using them as hookers, and if I'm going to be putting any in any bait, I'm going to be picking 2 or 3 out and put them in. So that's them done. Okay. I always like to take some reds and some whites. Whites just as a visual, really. Some big maggot. I need a handful. Only hookers again. I've also done, which I love using on the Canal, some Fucud fluoro pinkies with their Fucud red dye. Yeah, fine. I do like using it. Squats. It's got brought some squats. So that's my main hook baits, other than a nice 1/4 kilo worm, dendies. So that's my hook baits ready to go. Bread, ooh, bread punch. Now these are quite handy. As you can hear, this is frozen because I do my bread slightly different to everybody else's. But these little, basically, I think sandwich containers, basically. Don't ask me how to pronounce that. I'm no good at pronouncing stuff. System, I think it's pronounced. I find they're brilliant. I can put my bread punch in there. I can tear a bit off. Stops it from drying out. And I can take what punch I want, and then when I want another piece, I can tear another piece off and use it. Basically, so I do my we'll look at that another day. I was shown a different way donkeys years ago by an old boy, well, an old match angler actually, top level at match angler. I see so many different ways of doing it, steaming it, microwaving it. Yeah, forget, don't need to, you really do not need to. I mean, I think I've shown on one of my other videos some time ago where I just did a quick session down at Zoch on the canal down there, and literally it was like, you know what, I'm going fishing, got really nothing, and I actually had, the way I was shown how to do my punch, I actually got some like 50-50, which was brown bread and white bread. It worked perfect. Anyway, that's something totally different. Right, so that's up baits. So just quick go through again. Obviously a few big mag, some dead maggot and pinky, just a little tiny amount, say this, some squats and some food pinkies, and some bread punch. Simple as that, dead easy. Don't really need a lot else than that. Right, what we're gonna have a look at next is obviously I'll knock a bit, we'll have a quick look at this punch crumb, because that will probably be about right for taking a bit of water. Right, back in a minute. Punch crumb, that is, I mean, that's almost gone like it's, I'll try and show you. So that's almost like it's gone dry, yeah. So it's gone a few little lumps in there, but I can't really squeeze that together now. It's took on a lot of water. So what I'm going to do is, now it's taken on some water, I can add some water out the tub as opposed to putting hand through, because it won't go dead lumpy. If you put loads of water in to start with, it'll just go, you'll just end up with a mass of lumps. It's a nightmare. So obviously small amount of water again, back to basically similar to what we were doing on the first time. Some water in, just mixing up. Yeah, it will take that water quite quickly this time, and then it's going back towards being squeezable again. I'm going to put a bit more in, so a bit more water like that. You notice it's not really going dead lumpy. That's because that initial start of getting the water in is the way to do it. Just gives that initial start. So I'll fingers like that and use them as a claw. I know some people use drills and stuff, but I don't need to use a drill. Noisy anyway. Right, that is just about going nicely now. Get a bit more water in. So yeah, all I did, just a small amount at a time. I hope this light's not bouncing off my head too much. I don't want to blind everybody with my bulb patch. Right, that's nice now. So as you can see, it's not without lumps, but it's not just a mass mess of stodge, because we took a little bit of time to it. Give it an initial start. Right, this is something that I see a lot of people that don't do it, and you should, and I wonder why you should. So effectively any bread crumb, if you're using just straight white crumb, brown crumb, some of the coloured crumbs, red crumbs and stuff like that, no need to mix it up as slow as what I've just done it. It's better though, but the most important thing with crumbs and ground baits, but crumbs particular, is to run them through a sieve or a riddle, whatever you want to call them. People think, well, can't be bothered with that. It makes such a difference, you know, to your fishing, and the way you can present the bait. You just, whether you're pleasure fishing or you're just going out down the pond and just for a couple of hours, it makes a massive difference. It's just a huge difference. So that's a little 2.5mm riddle, yeah. Is obviously, that's more of a ground bait, that riddle. Even if you got one of them, you don't need to go as fine as that. If you got one of them to put your your ground baits through, sieving your maggots off, things like that. It comes in so useful, but it makes such a difference to your mix. Right, so what we'll do, bigger bucket this time because that's a bigger riddle. So I'll put that lot onto there, yeah? Yeah? And what I'm going to do, as you can see, look, it's leaving all those. See, if you didn't do this and you just went and just chucked that into the lake or a pond, especially if it's hard going, you just end up with putting lumps in, and the fish are, if a fish comes away, they're going to pick up the lumps because they look bigger. But as far as my mind thinks, is those lumps are going to fill the fish up, bloat the fish up, anything like that. But the bigger bit wants to be my up bait, not the free offering feed. Right, so we've got the lumps there. I'll just give it a little bit of a rub, but you know what? That's bin fodder, or put it outside for the birds. So I've chucked that in the bottom of that smaller bucket for the minute. Chuck you there. So that's made, hope you can see that, quite a nice crumb. Now, this is where I said it was going to be difficult, didn't I? So I can make, you probably can't see this, but I can make quite a nice ball out of that. But I know by tomorrow that will probably want 2 wet hands running through it. But I can crumb it back down. Say the old thing, you make it into a ball, I can crumb it down. Probably on the canal I won't be really making it into a ball. I'll probably just it'll literally be one squeeze, probably not, well, not as big as that, straight into the cup, cupped in. So it kind of sits there on the surface for a couple of seconds, it starts to break up and then goes whoop, and down it goes. So as it goes down it breaks up nicely, and I might put one in that's a little bit harder, but that's kind of it really. So that, now I won't need to run that through the sieve tomorrow. I'll chuck that in a bag. So I've got my maggot bags I use at the shop. If you come to the shop you'll see your maggot bags. Chuck it in that. That'll go in my bait bag for tomorrow. And all I'll need to do is just same as what we did a minute ago. A couple of wet hands until it starts to go to the point where I think, yeah, that's about right for what I want it for. And I can adjust it to the depth. I know how deep Loughborough Canal is, but if we're going somewhere else and it might be a bit deeper, might need to be a little bit wetter. Or, again, something we spoke about, I mean, this is just my stash at home, just some chick grit. We actually do a mix, which again ourselves, proper ground bait grit that's got different size bits of grit in. I know I see people talk about using aquarium grits and that. It costs a bloody fortune, and it's blues and all that stuff. No, sorry, just a bit of grit. The other thing with grits and stuff is another thing that was passed on to me, and the school of thought is if there's bits of grit in there, especially if there's skimmers about, skimmers like sifting through things and they'll pick it up and they'll be sucking it in and blowing it out, trying to find those bigger bits of bait. So again, looking for your hook bait really. So you've got a carpet of breadcrumb or whatever on the bottom, and they're sifting it through and sucking it up and blowing it out, sucking it up and blowing it out, and then they'll cut. It's where not putting too much loose offerings in, just a few loose offerings in. But like I say, every time it needs to be your up bait that's not a loose offering. I've just checked this again while we're just talking. That's just starting to dry out already. So maybe actually before I put it in the bag, I think I'll add a little bit more water to that. Where's me? Not with a wet hand, just I'm going to put a little bit more water in that. This is what I say, which is why I like to take my time with it. There's no rush in the evenings. So that's just wetted that back up again. It's not got lumpy. If it did go lumpy, I'd just chuck it back through the sieve. There's no harm in chucking it through the sieve again. I mean, even if you're going out pleasure angling, when I do my experience days, I always say to people, take a leaf out of my prep from match fishing. There's not the time to set up really. Everything needs to be ready to go. But if you're going out pleasure fishing, why spend 20 minutes, half an hour on a bank doing things like this? That's time wasted fishing for me. You can have it prepped up at home. You have stuff like this prepped up at home in a bag, chuck it in the freezer. or in the night, a couple of days before. There you go, that's just brought that back down beautiful. Right, so that's going in the bag. Tie the top off, that's ready for tomorrow. All right, so let's have a look at quick look at some ground bait, shall we? Right, I'll put this away and I'll see you in a moment. Right then, so final little bit, ground baits. I'm not gonna, this is more about using something if I need it for a bit of smell. I suppose you could argue I could knock it up on the bank, but again, I just like to do the prep at home. I don't want an active mix really tomorrow. I want to be able to alter it on the bank quickly in the morning to whether it stays as it is or add soil to it or turn it into a slop mix. So basically, what we'll do is what I spoke about the other day, just chuck water everywhere. Special. This is my gut feeling tomorrow, looking at the conditions. It's not going to overdo it. Don't need a lot of feed content at all. So good old special. So quarter pint special. I'd say a bit more skimmer mixy, because it's quite sweet. Super cup, same again with super cup, quarter super cup, and I just love using this stuff. Adds, like I say, adds a bit of weight, bit less. So what's that? That's 100 ml of DM. Actually smells quite nice, to be fair, the old pigeon poo, but it's got quite a bit of grit in it, so it adds a bit of weight, helps it break down, and that's it. So all we'll do is just bind them together. It smells quite sweet with that soup cup. Nearly dropped it then. So that's my mix basically, and then what we'll do, same as what we did really with the old punch crumb. Add a bit of water, yeah, not a lot. Like I was saying earlier, what this is mainly, I can adjust this to whatever I want near enough on the bank. A bit more water, it's starting to take on a bit of water already. This is quite a fine mix really. I've used for a very, very long time. Sort of smell the molasses in the special coming out. A bit more water. Like I say, I think I spoke on the last video. It's surprising how much water, even though we've not used a lot of special in this, it's almost a, should we say, 50-50 mix. That special done off, take some water. And so the super cup's more there just for, I just wanted that sweet, that sweeter additive to it as well. Right, like I said, the other thing, you even doing it even this way, it does feel, that special does feel gritty. There you go, that's about right really. If you're knocking it up on the bank, that's about where you want it, although this needs to stand for a little bit. See, again, you must leave it to stand. No matter what ground baits you do, it needs to be able to take in that water. That's, so dry mix, if that was dropped in as is, so putting less in and probably putting little nuggets like that in, that would just literally just break up. All it's going to do is put some particles in the water, and if there's any fish knocking around, they're going to sense that that's in the water, but there's no feed content there. It's just literally just bits floating around, almost like dust particles in the water, if you can imagine that. Just dust in the water floating around, but it's going to, even though effectively fish can't smell, it's through taste, they're going to sense that that's in the water, and they're going to be inquisitive, hopefully think, oh, what's that, I need to feed because I need to survive. And the only thing really that's going to be there is your upbait. So if that's falling through the water, loads of little particles coming off, and hopefully making a little bed on the bottom, then that's what you want. That's already starting to dry out already, even again with this talking. Or if you had an inkling that the fish were up in the water, even though it's cold, you could fish through the water and have that as a cloud. Quite a light float, probably even down to a 4/10, 4/12, something like that, 0.10 of a gram. It's just something really light, so it just falls through the water really slow, and you can have it falling through that cloud. You can read the float. You're probably going to pick these little tiny fish up like that, but that could be well, the difference between actually blanking, can't it? It's just something simple like that, and that's what it's going to be tomorrow, I'm sure, for most of us. Yeah, that's starting to get ready. Even in that short period of time, I could get a lot more water in that. So I'm going to put some more water in. Right, I've noticed while mixing this up, there's a few little big particles, as daft as that sounds, a few particles in there that I don't want. Now, you find with special, anybody that's used it will probably say the same thing really. With special, you don't seem to need to sieve it. But I've just noticed there's some bigger bits in there that I don't want. There you go, back to normal. So I'm going to use the same sieve again that we did for the punch crumb. So, same sieve again, yeah. Chuck that on. Should have brought my tripod from the shop really, shouldn't I? There you go, it's on the sieve. So we'll get, there you go, I can push that, see the bigger bits in there? Maybe, hopefully you can see that. There's some bigger bits, yeah? I don't want them bits of, it's like bits of wheat and things like that that have not quite gone through some, don't want those. Yeah, that actually, if that's in the ground bait, that should be a pinky or a squat or something. Not a bit of that. That should be, you want fish feeding on that. There's an even bigger bit, look. Look at that. Cornflake. Yeah. So that's, see how easy that's gone through. So that's took all that lot out. So that's going to take some more water. You see how that's drying out already? That's nuts, isn't it? It's that special. It just takes on loads and loads of water, but it don't go claggy. It just breaks up. But I'm going to chuck some more water in that before I put it in a bag, and then tomorrow I can alter that mix with what I showed you on the last video. Some of our molehill soil. I could cut that 50-50 if I wanted to. I know that full well this is not going to feed fish up anyway, but if thinking actually I've drawn a peg where I'm going to need a bit more, or it's going to react well to ground bait, I could cut it 50-50 with molehill. It just gives me, I can put more in without putting more feed in, if that makes sense. That's it. The only thing you'll notice on certainly on the special is it's got salt in it. Salt's a natural, fish naturally will look for salt. Again, same thing as us, it's something, obviously salt disperses very, very well in water, and when we're on about scent again, obviously there's its taste. You know, if you think about your own ourselves, taste, salt and sugars and stuff like that dissolve well in water. It's another subject really, subject I spent a bit of time on when we had the fishery, we were doing our own baits back then. Quite interesting, quite fascinating subject. The stuff that's water soluble really, scents and smells that are water soluble. Anyway, that's a completely different thing. So that's my ground bait for tomorrow. More than that'll probably last quite a few bloody canal sessions, to be fair. But I might go out in a week as well. So whatever I don't use, just leave it in the bag, bring it home. It's cold enough outside, it's not going to go off. This will just stay. So that I can squeeze that quite nicely. Now look, I can make that quite hard, but knowing full well that that will break up quite quickly. All right, I think that's it really. that's enough boring you to death. So fingers crossed, tomorrow it's going to be cold, it's going to be tough, but quite looking forward to it. The rest of my kit's done. And I'll see you all on the next one. So don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, tell your mates about it. Keep an eye out for what else we do. So I'm going to try and do some more of these. Obviously all this hitting, liking and all that lot, I'm sure you hear it on other videos as well. It just helps everything. All right, have a good Sunday, guys, and I shall see you all next week. Take care. Bye bye.